The training field was silent until the metallic clink echoed. Every head turned. There she was, gripping the massive Barrett .50 caliber rifle, a weapon weighing nearly 30 pounds, usually handled by two. The instructors froze. The recruits whispered. What they were witnessing wasn't just raw strength, it was the moment training turned into legend. The air on the training field carried a different kind of heaviness that morning. It wasn't just the heat or the weight of the gear strapped to every recruit's body. It was the unspoken pressure that comes when men and women are pushed past breaking points, when each drill feels less like a routine and more like a judgment on whether you truly belong. The instructors stood like statues, arms folded, eyes scanning, looking for weakness. Every recruit knew their gaze could slice through excuses and see fear before it surfaced. For most, the day's challenge was already terrifying enough, an introduction to one of the most feared and respected rifles in military history, the Barrett M82, chambered in .50 BMG. Among recruits, the Barrett was whispered about like a myth. The rifle that could reach a target a mile away. The rifle so heavy it demanded respect from even seasoned operators. 29 pounds of steel, recoil that could bruise a shoulder for weeks, and a presence so commanding that it often required a spotter and a team to manage effectively. To new recruits, it wasn't just a weapon, it was a mountain in firearm form. The instructors set the Barrett on the table in front of the formation. Its black frame gleamed in the morning sun, longer than most recruits' torsos, heavier than any rifle they had handled before. A hush fell over the group. They had all studied its specs, memorized its statistics, and rehearsed in their heads how they might someday work alongside it. But no one expected to actually touch it during basic training. That was the test. Not a live-fire exercise. Not a marksmanship challenge. Simply, lift it. Feel its weight. Show respect. Then set it down. The first recruit stepped forward, jaw tight, hands trembling as he wrapped his fingers around the massive frame. His arms quivered almost immediately. He managed to lift it waist-high, grimaced, then set it down as quickly as he could, exhaling in relief. The instructors didn't scold him. They didn't need to. The Barrett itself was the lesson. One by one, recruits stepped forward. Some lifted it briefly, faces red with effort. Others barely got it off the table. A few shook their heads, unwilling to embarrass themselves further. Each attempt reinforced what everyone already knew. This rifle wasn't meant to be handled casually. It was meant to be respected, almost feared. Then it was her turn. She stepped forward quietly, without swagger or hesitation. Her boots crunched against the gravel as the eyes of the entire platoon followed her. Unlike the others, she didn't pause to psych herself up. She simply looked down at the Barrett, studying it as if it were just another piece of gear to be checked. No one expected what was about to happen. For a moment, time seemed to slow. The Barrett lay on the table like a challenge carved from iron, its length stretching nearly 5 feet, its weight daring anyone to underestimate it. The other recruits had strained, sweated, and failed to tame it. Now all eyes locked on her. She placed her hands on the rifle, one on the pistol grip, the other sliding under the frame near the bipod. Her movements were deliberate, calm, almost too calm for the situation. Whispers spread behind her. Does she even know what she's about to try? No way she can do it. Watch her drop it. Bet the instructors will tear her apart. But she didn't hear them. Or maybe she did, and that was the point. Her knees bent slightly, her back straightened, and with a smooth, powerful motion, she lifted. At first, no one breathed. The Barrett rose cleanly off the table. No trembling, no jerking. It was as if she had rehearsed it 100 times in secret. Her arms locked into place, and suddenly, she wasn't just holding the rifle, she was commanding it. The instructor's stoic expressions cracked for the first time that morning. One raised his eyebrows. Another tilted his head, arms loosening from their rigid fold. They had expected a brief show of effort, maybe a half lift. They had not expected her to shoulder the weapon. But that's exactly what she did. With controlled precision, she shifted her grip, slid the Barrett upward, and tucked the buttstock into her shoulder. The recoil pad pressed against her frame, but she held it steady as though it were no heavier than a standard-issue carbine. Her stance widened slightly, her breathing steady, eyes focused down the length of the massive barrel. The whispers behind her vanished. Silence swept across the training field. Even the wind seemed to pause. There was no instructor's bark. No sharp order to stop. They, too, were frozen, caught between disbelief and awe. In their years of training recruits, they had seen determination, they had seen bravado, they had even seen reckless displays of strength. But this was something else entirely. It wasn't just raw power. It was composure. A statement, without words, that she belonged here as much as anyone else, maybe more. She held the Barrett steady for several seconds, long enough for everyone to understand that this wasn't an accident or a lucky grip. This was deliberate. This was controlled. Then, with the same calm precision, she lowered it back down, setting the rifle gently on the table. The thud of steel meeting would snap the platoon back to life. Gasps, murmurs, and even a stifled curse rippled through the line. Someone whispered, "No way," another muttered, "That's not even possible." The instructors exchanged glances, each one silently acknowledging that something extraordinary had just happened. And standing in the center of it all, she didn't smile, didn't gloat, didn't even acknowledge the stunned faces staring back at her. She simply stepped back into line, as if nothing had happened. But nothing was the same anymore. When she stepped back into formation, the air felt different, charged, alive, as if the earth itself had shifted slightly underfoot. Every recruit in that line knew they had just witnessed something they would never forget. Some stared at her with wide-eyed disbelief, others with a quiet respect they hadn't felt just minutes earlier. The Barrett had broken most of them down, exposed their limits, reminded them of the gulf between a recruit and the legends they aspired to be. But she hadn't just lifted it, she had made it look effortless. One of the instructors finally broke the silence. His voice was calm but carried weight. "Remember what you just saw. Strength isn't just muscle. It's composure, control. That's what separates soldiers from civilians." But everyone knew he wasn't really speaking about strength in general. He was speaking about her. From that moment forward, whispers followed her wherever she went. In the chow hall, someone would mutter, "That's the one who lifted the Barrett." On night watch, recruits swapped retellings of the moment, exaggerating details as stories do. She held it for a full minute. She didn't even flinch. The instructors couldn't believe it. She had become a story before she had even finished training. For her part, she didn't feed into it. She ate her meals quietly, trained with the same discipline as before, and never once mentioned what had happened. If asked, she would shrug, say it was just a test, just a moment like any other. But that humility only deepened the respect around her. Because the truth was, the Barrett wasn't just a rifle. It was a symbol. To the recruits, it represented the nearly impossible standard of what they were striving to become. And she had faced that standard directly, alone, and carried it with a calm that none of them could deny. Instructors, too, treated her differently after that day. They never softened their tone. Discipline was discipline, but there was a subtle shift. An extra second of eye contact when giving orders. A rare nod of acknowledgement during drills. Small signs, but to anyone who had been in training long enough, those signs meant everything. She had crossed an invisible line. She wasn't just another face in the formation anymore. She had earned her place in the unspoken hierarchy, where respect wasn't given but seized, where moments defined reputations. Years later, recruits who trained with her would still tell the story. Around campfires, in barracks, even in combat zones, the memory resurfaced. "I was there. I saw it happen." She lifted the Barrett like it was nothing. And that is how legends are born. Not through medals pinned to uniforms or speeches carved in stone, but through a single act, done at the right moment, witnessed by the right people, an act that turns a trainee into something unforgettable. That day, on the training field, she wasn't just another recruit anymore. She was the one who lifted the Barrett .50 cal alone.